3 a.m. Watch the heartwarming moment a tired maid receives a shocking breakfast from the CEO. In the dead of night, when shadows danced eerily across the halls of the old green manor, something extraordinary was about to unfold. As the clock struck 3 a.m., the haunting echoes of silence were pierced by the soft patter of a worn-out maid's feet. Clara, a frail figure with the kind of exhaustion that came from years of hard work, dragged herself down the dimly lit corridor. Her hair fell in loose tendrils around her face, and her eyes, though weary, flickered with the slightest glimmer of determination. Little did she know, tonight would change everything. With every creak of the floorboards beneath her, Clara felt the weight of the house's history bearing down on her. Whispered tales of the troubled CEO, James Green, floated around the staff room. He was said to be a genius in the office but a recluse in his mansion. Hidden away from the world, a man haunted by his own demons. Parlors full of extravagant decor draped in shadows felt like a graveyard of secrets. Workers spoke of strange noises at night, distant cries, low murmurs, and sometimes, just sometimes, the chilling sound of laughter echoing inexplicably. Clara shivered at the thought. Then, just as she was about to round the corner into the kitchen, a strange hum vibrated through the air. It was neither music nor conversation but a disconcerting melody that sent her heart racing. Her breath caught in her throat, and the hair on the back of her neck stood on end. She hesitated, gripping the kitchen door handle tightly, her heart hammering against her ribcage. What was happening? Was it just her imagination playing tricks? Or was there truly something or someone lurking in the shadows? Suddenly, she pushed the door open, ready to confront whatever waited beyond. But what she found was a sight that left her breathless. The CEO himself, James Green, standing there in the dark, illuminated by the flickering light of an antique lamp. He was preparing a lavish breakfast spread that overflowed with culinary delights: pancakes stacked high, golden brown, glistening with syrup, fresh fruits bursting with color, and a steaming cup of coffee that could revive even the weariest of souls. "I thought you could use a little pick-me-up," he said softly, his eyes sparkling with something she couldn't quite place. Was it kindness? Or was there a hidden agenda lurking just beneath the surface? Before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon, and while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Clara blinked in astonishment, her mind racing. How could he, a man so notoriously private, open up like this? Was this a mere gesture of goodwill, or was it a calculated move? The warmth of the food radiated towards her, but in that moment, she felt an icy chill of uncertainty creep up her spine. As she stepped into the kitchen, drawn in by the aroma and the unexpected hospitality, she couldn't shake the feeling that layers of intrigue wrapped around the whole situation, waiting for her to peel them back. What secrets lay between the rich smell of pancakes and the somber seriousness reflected in his gaze? Clara could feel the tension thickening like fog around them, ready to envelop and unravel everything she thought she knew. Stepping closer, she asked, "Why are you doing this?" The answer hung in the air, tantalizingly just out of reach, as if fate itself was holding its breath, waiting for the next beat in this strange and heartwarming story. James's expression flickered for a moment, as if the warmth of the breakfast had vanished, leaving behind a cool mask of contemplation. Sometimes, he began slowly, you just need to break the cycle, even if only for a moment. Clara couldn't help but sense the weight behind his words. They felt heavy, laden with unspoken histories. What cycle? She pressed, her brow furrowing as she narrowed the distance between them. She could see the weariness etched into his features, yet his voice remained calm, cool as the autumn breeze outside the manor. His smile softened, but it was fleeting. "You know, this place can feel suffocating. I thought you might understand." There was an ache in his voice, a hint of vulnerability. Wasn't he this the man who supposedly locked himself away from the world? Clara's heart raced, caught between her instinct to retreat and an urgent desire to dive deeper into the depths of his revelation. I do understand, Mr. Green, but it's late. You shouldn't be alone. The sincerity in her tone matched the compassion blooming in her chest. It pierced through her exhaustion, sparking a nerve of hope in her that she thought had long been extinguished. I'm not alone, Clara. You're here now. His gaze bore into her, challenging yet pleading, creating an invisible thread of connection between them. With a small, trembling hand, he gestured for her to take a seat at the table where he laid out the breakfast like an offering as Clara reluctantly sat. The aroma wafted around her, momentarily drowning out the shadows of the manor. She poured herself a cup of coffee, her hands shaking slightly, nerves electrified by the unexpected intimacy of the moment. Her chest felt tight. Everything felt heightened. What do you really want? The bluntness escaped her before she could stop it. James leaned in closer, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. You're not the only one with secrets, Clara. He paused, and for a heartbeat, the tension crackled in the air like lightning. There's more to this house than meets the eye. More to me. Her mind raced. Secrets? His sadness was palpable, enveloping them like a fog. But what did he mean? Was he referencing the strange occurrences she had heard, whispers of the restless spirits that seemed to haunt the estate? She swallowed hard, the lump in her throat growing. Look, I need someone to share this weight with, he continued, his words tumbling out almost nervously. A man on the edge. And I think you might be that person. The implication made Clara's heart pound furiously. You want me to help you? Why me? You see the world differently, he asserted, his eyes searching her face. You're not afraid to confront the darkness, even when it lurks in plain sight. The kitchen felt smaller, the shadows thicker. She couldn't shake the feeling that she was teetering on the edge of something vast, something dangerous. But what if I suddenly... An unearthly sound shattered the silence. A distant wail echoed through the corridors of the manor, chilling Clara to her very bones. The noise spiraled in, filling the kitchen with a spectral weight, as the flickering lamp above them flickered wildly. What was that? Clara gasped, gripping the edge of the table. Her heart pounded in sync with the chaos around them. James's expression hardened, his earlier vulnerability evaporating like mist in the morning sun. We need to find out. Now. The kitchen door swung open with a force that echoed through the vast empty halls. Clara and James exchanged a knowing look, a mix of fear and determination sparkling in the air between them. Just what were they about to uncover in this house of secrets? Would Clara's choice to delve deeper lead to liberation or doom? The moment had come, and it was only the beginning. Clara's gut twisted as they stood at the threshold of both uncertainty and dread. The kitchen felt like a cocoon, yet outside loomed the vast unknown of the manor, its creaking walls whispering secrets that begged to be heard. She swallowed hard, glancing at James, whose determination radiated like electricity. Every part of him was ready to uncover the truth. Stay close, he murmured, his voice low but intense. He stepped into the hallway. The wooden floor groaned beneath his weight as though warning him against their departure. Clara followed, her heart racing, an urgent pulse in her ears as they crossed the threshold. The chill of the air wrapped around her like damp cloth. The creaking floorboards echoed their every step, shifting the stillness into something palpable, as if the house was holding its breath. Shadows lurked in the corners, twisting into shapes that flickered in her peripheral vision. What did you hear? Clara asked, keeping her voice steady despite her trembling hands. I don't know. It sounded desperate, he replied, glancing back at her, his brow furrowed. Whatever it is, we can't ignore it. They moved cautiously, passing through a narrow corridor adorned with portraits of grim-faced ancestors. Each set of eyes seemed to follow them, judging their intrusion. Clara felt the weight of their gaze, as if the spirits of the past were urging them to turn back. The wailing sounded again, clearer now, a pitiful cry drifting through the manor like smoke. It seeped through walls, threading into her soul. Clara shuddered at the sound, a pulse of terror and empathy merging inside her. What if she hesitated, her mind racing? What if it's a spirit? What do we do then? James stopped abruptly and turned to face her. We face it, he said firmly, an edge of fear in his eyes, but also a flicker of resolve. Together. The wailing grew louder, reverberating off the walls, pulling Clara forward. James took her hand, the warmth of his grip tethering her to reality, fighting back the swirling shadows that beckoned her to flee. Where is it coming from? Clara whispered, her breath hitching. There. He nodded towards a heavy oak door at the end of the hall. It loomed ominously, its paint peeling like old memories trying to escape. The sound was louder now, a mournful plea that resonated deep within Clara's heart. Together they moved towards the door, the air thick with hostility. It felt like crossing a threshold into forbidden territory. As James reached for the handle, Clara felt a sudden rush of dread. The sound intensified, transforming into a chorus of anguished cries that echoed through the manor, shaking her to her core. What if she started? But her voice faltered, realizing she might be about to step into something beyond her comprehension. Something terrifying. What if it wants something from us? James paused, the grip on the doorknob tightening. Then we give it what it needs. We listen. With that, he turned the handle and pushed the door open. A blast of cold air hit them, swirling with the scent of decay and an almost tangible darkness. The room beyond was cloaked in shadows, with only faint outlines visible in the dim light. Are you ready? James's voice trembled slightly, but deep down, they both knew there was no turning back. Clara took a breath, feeling the weight of the moment. She nodded, though her heart raced wildly within her chest as they stepped into the dark abyss. The wailing crescendoed into a piercing scream, wrapping around them like chains. What awaited them on the other side was uncertain, but that was the least of their worries. When the door slammed shut behind them, an eerie silence filled the air, leaving only the echo of their own anxious breaths. In that instant, everything changed. What had they just awakened, and did they have the courage to face it? The darkness enveloped them like a thick fog. Clara's breath hitched in her throat as she squinted into the room, straining to see through the blackness. A chill ran down her spine, the wailing now morphed into a low keening, pulling at her very marrow. James stepped cautiously inside, moving like a soldier advancing into enemy territory. Where are you? He called, his voice cutting through the silence, filled with equal parts courage and hesitation. Closer now, the shadows shifted, revealing the remnants of what once might have been a lavish sitting room. Tattered furniture lay scattered, draped in layers of dust. A cracked mirror hung crookedly on the wall, reflecting nothing but murky darkness. Felt alive, simmering with secrets. Clara felt an invisible force drag at her, urging her to retreat, but she pressed on, anchored by James. Do you see anything? She whispered, anxiety clawing at her insides. Just shadows? And old memories, he replied, eyes scanning the corners. Another wail echoed, this one echoing like a lost soul. It was more than just a sound. It was a weight pressing down on her thoughts. She could almost hear the suffering wrapped within it, and her heart ached for whatever was causing this torment as they ventured deeper. They stumbled upon an old piano, its keys yellowed with age. Clara's fingers itched to touch it, to hear its voice break the silence. A sudden rush of impulsiveness took over, and with one hesitant hand, she pressed down on a key. The sound was dissonant, like a cry of anguish bursting forth from the depths. Clara, don't. James stepped forward, fear flashing across his face. But it was too late. With the echo of that note, the room shook. The air felt thick, almost charged, as if the very walls were rebelling against her. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the shadows, a faint outline of a woman. Her face obscured, but the sorrow emanating from her was palpable. Help me, the voice was a haunting whisper, fluttering through the dust-filled room like a ghostly wind. What do you want? Clara called, her knees weakening. I need you to remember to listen. The figure drifted closer, and in that moment of connection, Clara felt a swell of emotions surging within her. Pain, loss, regret, they wrapped around her heart, pressing it down. James stepped protectively in front of Clara, his body tense and ready to shield her. "What do you want from us?" His voice was gruff, a blend of determination and fear. "Unlock the memories. The truth lies within the walls." The woman's voice trembled, revealing a history soaked in grief. With each word, shadows shifted, swirling tight around them, pulling Clara into a vortex of the past. Clara's head spun. What memories? Suddenly, the ground beneath them rumbled. The floorboards creaked ominously, and a loud crack split the silence as a hidden door burst open at the far end of the room. Dark, swirling tendrils of vapor poured out like an unwelcomed visitor. "Clara!" James shouted, reaching out for her through the thickening haze. But the moment felt surreal. She was rooted to the spot, unable to look away from the dark abyss that beckoned. The woman's shape flickered, caught between realms, and with one final cry, she faded into the shadows, her sorrow lingering like a ghostly reminder. Clara's breath quickened. What if we follow her? What if we find out what happened? The woman, she's trapped. We can't leave her, James said, pulling Clara closer as the air around them thickened, the urgency prickling at their skin. But instinctively, Clara felt dread tightening its grip on her throat. If we go down there, we might never come back. Are you ready to risk it? James pressed, staring deep into her eyes. Together she managed, her heart pounding as goosebumps erupted along her skin as they took a tentative step towards the open door. The shadowy tendrils began to swirl faster, almost alive, and the wailing returned, louder than ever. What truths lay hidden in that darkness? Ready or not, a choice had to be made. Would they plunge into the unknown or flee from the haunting whispers of the past? They glanced at each other, hearts racing, a silent agreement brewing between them. Together, they stepped into the unknown. The tendrils wrapped around them, cold and slick against their skin, like the fingers of the ghosts they had just encountered. Clara squeezed James's hand as they crossed into the dark. The air thickened with an oppressive gloom, making it hard to breathe. Faces flickered in the shadows, and whispers brushed against her ears, drawing her deeper into the abyss. "Listen," they seemed to say, echoing the woman's plea. They descended further into the dimness, the hidden space revealing itself as a narrow stairwell that spiraled down. The walls looked ancient, lined with what appeared to be faded photographs coated in dark stains. Clara's heart sank as she glimpsed the faces. Smiling children, joyful couples once alive, now frozen in time. They felt like watchful souls trapped in a memory. But whose memory? "Do you feel that?" Clara whispered, her voice trembling. James nodded, his expression grave. "It's like they're alive." A heavy weight settled in her stomach as they reached the bottom, the space opening into a cavernous chamber. It was a sanctuary of sorts, filled with remnants of life: a rocking chair, a worn-out rug, and in the center, a small table with an elegant lace cloth barely visible beneath a thick layer of dust. "What is this place?" Clara breathed, stepping forward. The air buzzed with anticipation, electric with the energy of stories left untold. "More like what was this place?" James murmured. "We need to find a clue." As they explored the chamber, Clara's gaze fell upon a small box nestled in the corner. It was battered and weathered, covered in cobwebs, but something about it pulled her in. "James, look," she called, her voice echoing against the stone walls. He rushed over, peering at the box. "Do you think we should open it? What if it's important?" Clara responded, almost pleading. "Or dangerous," he countered, glancing back at the writhing shadows, now swirling like a tempest in the room. Clara reached for the latch, fingers trembling as she took a deep breath. "I have to know." With a firm flick, the box opened with a creak that resonated through the chamber. Inside lay a bundle of old letters, yellowed with time. "Letters?" James raised an eyebrow, skepticism lining his features. Clara picked one up, her heart thudding as she unfolded it carefully. The ink was almost faded, but she could make out the looped handwriting, filled with longing and sadness. "It's a love letter," she murmured aloud. Someone was writing to someone they lost or wanted to save. A chill crept over them, the air thick with the weight of the past. As she read on, The wailing grew louder, rising up like a fierce storm. "James, look." She pointed to a name that echoed with familiarity. "This is her. The woman from above." Suddenly, the letters flew from her hands, swirling around them like autumn leaves in a savage wind. Clara's breath quickened as she tried to grasp at the sheets, but they slipped through her fingers. "Calm down," James shouted, trying to shield Clara from the chaos erupting around them. But the shadows were alive now, writhing and coiling around them as the woman's voice returned with a haunting crescendo. "Listen, you must unlock it." What does she want?" Clara shouted against the whipping wind of voices. Just then, a bright flash illuminated the chamber, freezing everything in place. A flash of memories, faces of anguish, laughter being torn away. In that heartbeat, Clara realized time had collapsed around them. "We're not just reading about the past," she gasped, the gravity of it all pressing down. "We're living it." As the tumult around them intensified, dust swirled into shapes, the outlines of figures emerging from the darkness, their eyes wide with grief and hope. "Clara, we have to get out of here." James grabbed her arm, eyes wide with urgency. The shadows began to howl, the room seeming to collapse inward. But where could they go? The way they had come was swallowed by shadows, an eternal void now. As Clara's mind raced for a solution, she caught sight of something flickering in the corner, another door, barely visible, glowing faintly as if urging them forward. "James, that way," she shouted, with the shadows snapping at their heels and the cacophony of lost souls echoing in their ears. They sprinted toward the door, hope and fear entwined in their hearts. What lay beyond that threshold? As Clara grasped the handle, a surge of dread washed over her. Would unlocking the door reveal more nightmares than truths? Her pulse raced. The peace at the end felt perilously close. What awaited them on the other side? As Clara twisted the handle, a strange warmth spilled around her like a welcome embrace. The door creaked open, revealing a dimly lit corridor that seemed to breathe, drawing in shadows and exhaling whispers of long-lost tales. The air buzzed with a pulsing energy, a rhythmic heartbeat beckoning them forward. "Come on," James urged, stepping through the threshold before the shadows could swallow them whole. Clara followed, propelled by adrenaline and the flickering light ahead. They found themselves in a narrow passageway lined with doors, each one unique, almost alive with character. Some sparkled like jewels under the faint glow, while others appeared weathered, as if burdened by heavy memories. Clara approached the nearest door cautiously, heartbeat roaring in her ears. That a series of soft knocks echoed from the door next to her, a patter that sent shivers racing down her spine. "Did you hear that?" she gasped, eyes darting to James. "I did." His voice trailed off, uncertainty etched across his face. The knocking intensified, urgency palpable in the rhythmic beats. The door inched open, revealing a figure swathed in shadows. A woman, her silhouette fragile and haunting, emerged with an outstretched hand, trembling yet determined. "Please, you have to help me," she whispered, her voice a fragile thread in the quiet. Clara's heart twisted. What do you need?" She felt compelled to step closer, even as an alarm blared in her head. "Unlock the other doors, free us." The woman's eyes glinted like shattered glass, filled with unshed tears and a pain that clawed at Clara's heart. "You're the only ones who can." "What do you mean?" James interjected, stepping forward protectively as Clara took a cautious step back. But before the woman could respond, a gust of wind tore through the corridor, slamming the door shut with a deafening bang. Clara stumbled back into James, their gasp mingling as the air thickened around them, the weight of desperation slinking back into the shadows. "Did she say free us?" "From what?" Clara murmured, shaken. The echoes of the woman's plea hung in the air, a miserable weight. "Listen," James urged. "We have to focus. What if all these rooms contain souls needing to be released?" His eyes darted to the doors, the fear mirrored back at him in Clara's gaze. They stood at the edge, contemplating the truth that lay in each space. Each door could unveil either redemption or despair. "What happens if we open them?" Clara asked, anxiety tightening her chest. James's jaw clenched, and after a moment of silence, he replied, "We have to risk it. We might be the last hope these souls have." Clara nodded, tethered to his resolve. She felt the tether of fate pulling. Together, they had come this far, and turning back wasn't an option. With a deep breath, Clara grasped the nearest doorknob, her fingers trembling as she turned it slowly. The door creaked open, revealing a room filled with dusty furniture, sunlight filtering through grimy windows like streaks of golden hope. But as they stepped inside, the atmosphere shifted. A chilling rush enveloped them, dark shapes swirling at the edges of their vision. Clara felt a sudden tug at her shirt, spinning around to find shadows hunched in the corners. Their faces morphed, distress etched in every angle. "Why did you come?" they chorused eerily, voices layered like a haunting symphony. "You cannot save us." A dread plunged into Clara's heart, but alongside it, a flicker of determination ignited. "We can. We will," she shouted, the conviction fueling her voice like a wild flame against the cold breath of despair. And as light fought against darkness, the walls trembled, and the ground beneath them creaked ominously. Would their defiance shatter the chains binding the past? Or would they become forever trapped within the shadows of despair? Clara and James stood at the crossroads of fate, the past and present colliding. Which door next? She gasped, caught in the storm of voices swirling around them, as the weight of their choice pressed down like a vice. The air thickened around Clara and James. It felt electric, charged with the desperation of the shadows twisting at the corners of the room. Clara's eyes darted to the next door down the hall, her thoughts racing. "Do we choose another door?" James whispered, his breath shaky. "What if they're all like this one?" Clara's heart raced. "But what if one of them leads us to the answer? We can't turn back now." Her voice broke slightly, and she felt a lump forming in her throat. The urgency pressed down harder, crackling like static between them. Before James could respond, an ear-piercing shriek erupted from the wall, pulling them back into the chaos. The shadows flickered, their forms writhing in agony, faces distorted, mouths wide open in silent cries. Clara swallowed hard. The cacophony seemed to reach for her, grasping at her sleeves, trying to drag her into the depths of despair. "Let me go," she cried, wrenching her arm free. "We need to focus on freeing them." The words surged from her with a fierce resolve. James nodded, genuine fear etched into his features. "Okay, but we need to be smart about this." With one last gulp of air, Clara stole a look at the door next to them. It was different, plain and weathered. No glimmer, no hint of mystery or enchantment. But there was a pulsating energy behind it, as if life still thrummed within its frame. "Let us try that one," Clara decided, her voice firming as a new determination coursed through her veins. She stepped forward, reaching for the handle, her fingers finding the cool metal. The moment she turned it, a deafening hush fell. The shadows trembled, their cries fading into an unsettling silence that felt more suffocating than their wails. Clara hesitated for just a heartbeat before flinging the door open wide. The room was stark, shadows etched into the corners, but the light was different here, brighter, almost transcendent. A woman knelt in the center, clutching a tattered teddy bear. Tears streamed down her face, reflecting the light in a prism of colors. "Please," she begged, her voice raw yet tender. "I can't move on until he is free." "Who?" Clara managed, her heart aching for the woman. "The boy," the woman's voice cracked. "He is trapped here with me." She pointed to the corner, where the shadows coalesced into something darker than night. A small figure huddled beneath the weight of anguish as they approached. Clara's pulse quickened. "James, look." In that moment, the boy's anguished eyes met Clara's. "Help me," he whispered, his voice barely above a breath. Shadows clawed at him, pressing down until he seemed to sink further into the darkness. "What do we do?" James muttered, panic rolling off him in waves. "We need to reach him," Clara cried. "If we can break whatever is holding him back, maybe it will free the others too." She felt adrenaline firing through her, burning away the fear as she took a step forward. As she did, the shadows recoiled, hissing and snapping like a pack of wild animals defending their prey. Clara winced but pressed on, her feet seemingly moving of their own accord, driven by the desire to save him. James joined her, their shoulders brushing together as they faced the growing darkness. Together, he breathed, gathering courage. Clara nodded, heart racing, determination spilling out in a torrent of bravery. On three, she urged, adrenaline surging as they locked eyes, two souls against the tide of despair. But just as they prepared to rally their strength, a roar erupted, a sound that made their bones rattle. Clara's stomach dropped. "What is that?" the boy screamed, the shadows slipping closer, their whispers turning into a furious cacophony that seemed to echo the very essence of terror. A force attempted to push them backward, but Clara stood steadfast, barely holding on. "What if we can't do it?" James shouted over the chaos, desperation climbing in his voice. "We have to," Clara shouted, their connection anchoring her resolve. For him, for them all. Would it be enough? As the shadows surged, Clara steeled herself, ready to unleash everything she had. The moment teetered on a knife's edge between hope and despair, and as the shadows bore down upon them, she could only whisper a final plea. "Please let us be free." In one sweeping motion, as darkness clashed violently against their light, Clara realized the truth she hadn't seen. Just as she was ready to act, something pulled at her, a deep truth waiting to be uncovered, but aimed straight for her heart. "Clara, look behind you," James gasped, his voice filled with horror as he pointed. What stood behind them would change everything, and as they turned, a new wave of realization rushed forth, a revelation that could shake the very foundation of their mission. The air shifted, thick with a tension that felt alive. Clara turned slowly, every hair on her body standing on end. Behind them was a figure, a towering silhouette as dark as the shadows surrounding the boy. At first, all she could make out were the outlines, the imprint of a person, but darkness coalesced into something more tangible. "Show yourself," Clara demanded, her voice shaking but defiant. This was no time for fear to take hold. Not now, not when so many depended on her. The figure stepped forward, halting the shadows in their tracks. Clara gasped as she recognized the face, hollow, sunken eyes that bore down on them with a mixture of contempt and sorrow. It was a man, wearing the remnants of a familiar face, yet twisted by grief and pain. How did she know him? The memory dangled just out of reach, tickling her mind. "Do you remember me?" His voice was a low growl, each word infused with bitterness, as if each syllable came from a place of infinite sorrow. "I've been waiting for you for a long time. Who are you?" James whispered, his eyes darting nervously as the shadows continued to circle them. "Does it matter?" The man shrugged, a hollow laugh escaping his lips. "You've come to play the hero, but you don't even know the truth of what binds you to this place." "What do you mean?" Clara took a shaky step forward, confusion drenching her courage. The boy shrieked again, and the shadows lunged, hungry and ravenous. Clara fought the urge to retreat, but the urgency pushed her. "Focus," she yelled, trying to pull everyone back to the task at hand. "Get the boy." But the man stood unfazed, a twisted grin spreading across his spectral features. "You think you can save them?" He gestured dismissively toward the boy, who now looked more terrified than ever. "They're not the only ones trapped here, just like I am." "No," Clara's resolve flared. "We will set him free, and whoever else is here. We won't let you control this." "Control?" he scoffed. "You misunderstand. I am a mere reflection of your own darkness. You can't save the boy without confronting what you fear most." Clara felt the truth of those words seep deep into her bones, as if a long-forgotten wound had been reopened. The shadows curled at her feet, eerily calm now, as if awaiting her response to this monster born of her own evasion. "I do know pain," she whispered, looking deep within herself. The faces of those she had lost flashed through her mind, each moment of helplessness carving deep scars into her heart. "But I also know strength." With that realization, she turned back to the boy, who met her with wide, pleading eyes. She felt the warmth of his fear radiating, mixing with her own resolve. "We need to work together." You have to believe in us. Together? James echoed, echoing the heartbeat of fear in his chest. Yes, Clara shouted, as bravery surged through her like an electric charge. For him, for everyone, the shadows swirled around them, thrumming in response. The man's laughter echoed throughout the chamber, mocking yet strangely melancholic. You think mere words will repel what resides within. Your hearts are fragile as I once was. At his words, an image flared in Clara's mind, a vision of the past, fragmented but vivid. The man was familiar, her father. The love in her heart twisted to returning rage, and grief merged into clarity. She had to confront the truth: he had trapped himself here, unable to move on, a victim of his own despair. The revelation surged through her. All this time, it hadn't just been about saving the boy. It was about facing old ghosts, doing the one thing she thought impossible: forgiving. Leave him be, she commanded. Will you confront me? He taunted, shadows curling tighter around him. Will you face the truth of what remains unhealed? The room pulsed with anticipation, the shadows eagerly awaiting her response. Clara's heart raced wildly, her breath quickening. She had a choice to make. But, as she prepared to take a step, the fabric of reality wavered, and a new roar echoed, louder than before. A searing light erupted from behind her, bright and blinding, ripping open the shadow-enshrouded walls. Time itself felt suspended, and Clara's gaze snapped back to James, caught in the world colliding around them. Would she find the strength to break through the darkness of her past? As the physical realm spiraled into chaos around them, one chilling question lingered like mist in the air. What would rise from the ashes of her confrontation, and would it be enough to save them all? The crackling light consumed the shadows, fracturing the oppressive darkness that had crowded around them. Clara sensed reality tearing at the seams, her heart pounding in her chest, desperate for answers, desperate for release. The warmth of her newfound courage felt distant now, merely a flicker against the suffocating weight of her father's gaze. Don't let him take you, Clara, James called out, panic lacing his voice. The swirling shadows began to quiver, threatening to dissolve into the searing brightness. The boy whimpered beside them, his terrified face distorting in the shifting light. James, focus, Clara shouted back, feeling the urgency slice through her fear. We need to find a way out of this. The eerie laughter of her father echoed around them, bouncing off the walls and flooding into her ears. You already are out, my dear. You just refuse to see it. His twisted smile deepened, darkening the light, fueling the shadows that whipped around them like angry serpents. That's not true, she shouted, clenching her fists. As if in response, the shadows hissed, curling tighter around her, teasing her with memories, the laughter, the warmth of her last embrace before the light faded from his eyes. No, Clara fought to keep those memories at bay. This wasn't about him. This was about saving the boy, saving herself. But her father's voice, filled with both love and betrayal, wrapped around her heart. To save him, you must face your past. How can you rescue a stranger when you cannot forgive your own blood? Clara shook her head, strands of hair sticking to her damp forehead. You don't get to own this pain. I will not be your puppet. The shadows tightened, lunging at her. The heat of the light pulsated, pushing back against the encroaching darkness. A surge of determination filled her soul. She had turned away from her past long enough. The whispered fears, the haunting regrets, they wouldn't control her any longer. I forgive you, she declared, her voice steady and clear as the chaos threatened to overwhelm her. I forgive what you've done, and I forgive the pain. One by one, the faces of her lost loved ones flashed before her, ghosts shimmering like those shadows, reminding her of the love that stayed, despite the grief. Each one was a reminder. To truly heal was to confront the darkness, to light a fire in its place. As the words left her lips, the room erupted. The light engulfed her completely, washing over everything, purging regret, sorrow, anger. For a moment, she felt both vulnerable and invincible, raw yet whole. The laughter stopped. Silence hung in the air, thick and profound. The boy looked up at her, all mixed with hope shining in his eyes. "Did you do it?" he whispered, voice trembling but stronger than before. "I think so," Clara replied, a wave of fatigue washing over her. I think I finally broke free." But the moment twisted unexpectedly. Her father's figure shifted, contorted. The shadows writhed in fury. The ground trembled beneath them. The walls began to crack, the lightest dominance faltering for the briefest heartbeat. A chilling wind swept through the room, carrying with it an unsettling whisper. "You believe you can escape me? This isn't the end." Then, as if on cue, the shadows surged, swirling into a vortex. Clara's heart raced. The boy screamed as the chaos lunged forward, dragging them all toward the heart of darkness. "Clara!" James shouted, grasping at her wrist. A doorway and escape flickered tantalizingly behind her. Clara faced the depths of shadow, the looming figure of her father rippling with fury. And yet, she felt something new, a flicker of old warmth amidst fear. "Are we going in or staying here?" James's voice was raw with fear, urgency cutting through the swirling madness. "Together," she shouted, determination flooding her. "We're getting out." With a fierce pull, she yanked James toward the doorway, a rush of air swirling around them, light streaking past like a comet. Time seemed to stretch painfully, panic twirling into possibility. But as they hurled themselves through the opening, Clara felt a sudden cold hand latch onto her shoulder. It was her father, his eyes now burning with a hollow light. "Your journey is not over, Clara. You'll see." And then they were through. But as the door slammed shut behind them, Clara's heart sank. The shadows had not vanished, they had only retreated. What awaited them now on the other side? What would happen to everyone she fought to save? Clara looked back, dread creeping in as she faced the unknown. It was now or never, and the question loomed. Would they emerge stronger from this battle, or had they simply awoken something darker? As the door slammed shut behind Clara and James, the chill of the shadows still clung to them like a second skin. But now they stood together in a dimly lit room, light crackling softly like embers glinting against the darkness. They had escaped the swirling chaos, and yet a sense of foreboding filled the air. "Are we safe?" James whispered, tension radiating from him. Clara blinked, trying to steady her racing heart. The grip of fear was beginning to loosen, but the weight of their journey pressed against her shoulders. "I don't know," she admitted, casting a glance around the new room. It was much brighter than the last, a cozy parlor filled with aged books and mementos of happier times. She could almost feel the laughter echoing within these walls. But shadows crouched in the corners, waiting, lurking, reminding her of the fight they just endured. Uncertain, she began to move forward, each step echoing with the weight of their past. Maybe this isn't a dead end? She contemplated aloud. As if triggered by her words, a faint glow flickered to life on the ornate mantelpiece, illuminating an old picture frame. Curious, Clara wandered closer and picked it up. It was a photograph of a woman cradling a child, both their faces beaming with a deep affection that ignited a warmth within Clara. "Do you recognize her?" Clara turned the frame toward James, his brow furrowed as he examined the faces. "No, but there is something familiar. Maybe it's connected. Maybe it's what we need." His eyes sparkled with hope, the first sign they had witnessed in what felt like forever. "Look, the letters," Clara exclaimed, spotting an envelope tucked into the edge of the frame. They had stumbled upon something essential. Carefully, she pulled it out, her hands shaking with anticipation. The letter unfurled, revealing a heartfelt message written in the same looping script she had seen before. It spoke of love, longing, and promises of hope. And tucked inside was a key, glinting beautifully in the light. "What is this?" James asked, leaning in closer. "Could it lead us to the others?" "I think it might," Clara breathed, the key heavy in her palm, a key to a door yet unlocked, invoking her determination anew. A key to set them free. Before she could ponder further, a shimmer enveloped her. The air crackled with energy again, and she knew the echoes of the past called to them once more. She felt the shadows stirring, but the dread was different this time. It carried a promise instead of despair. "Do we dare?" James murmured, his hand brushing against hers, an anchor to her resolve. Clara gazed into his eyes, seeing the flickers of hope and fear swirled together. She could see he was as scared as she was, but wanted to try. "Together," she asserted, squeezing his hand firmly. No turning back. With a single step forward, Clara opened her heart to all the possibilities that lay ahead. Time and space seemed to separate as they retraced their steps, following the memory of the door that had once imprisoned so many souls. As they approached the heavy oak door again, they exchanged a knowing look. This time, they would face the shadows with strength and light. Clara inserted the key into the lock, heart hammering in rhythm with the distant echoes of trapped souls calling for hope. The door opened slowly, revealing a bright white light that washed over them like sunlight breaking through storm clouds. The shadows writhed and fell back, and as the room filled with warmth, the distant cries turned into harmonious sounds like birds calling to each other at dawn. In that moment, Clara and James understood. They had done the impossible. The lives they had fought for the boy, the lost woman, would finally be free. The darkness lifted, revealing figures standing in the light, grateful even as they faded away. The boy stepped forward and smiled, gratitude shining in his eyes. "Thank you," he whispered, and just like that, he vanished into the brightness. With each soul released, a wave of relief flooded through Clara, washing away the burdens she had carried for so long. James turned to her, tears glistening in his eyes. The warmth of their joined hands tightened as the last shadow dispelled from their life. But among the joy was a profound truth settled deep within Clara's heart. She had unraveled her past, faced her fears, and had found a way to forgive. "We did it," she breathed, voice thick with emotion. "Yes, we did," James replied, his own voice wavering as relief washed over him. They stood together, unified against whatever challenges lay ahead, embracing the future and leaving behind the shadows of Green Manor, now their past, but also their path to strength and healing. As they stepped back into the sunlight, hand in hand, they knew they were free. Because sometimes, to move forward, you had to face the darkness, and in that confrontation, you would find your light. Before you go, this is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss our next exclusive stories. Smash that like button to feed the algorithm, and flood the comments with your reactions and theories about this incredible journey. We want to hear from you, and don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support makes all the difference. Let us grow this amazing community together.